Hey, BookTube friends, welcome back to my channel. I don't know if anyone here is watching. I think I see Dr. Carl and Suzette. Hello, how are you guys today? So I wanted to pop in and talk a little bit about Jaws because I read this book the last couple of weeks and I have some thoughts. And I think my thoughts on this book might be a little bit controversial. I know that some of my BookTube buddies have already read Jaws, and I actually enjoyed the book better than the film. So if you are in here, I do see Cool Gamer, hey, and Mark, nice to see you. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the book and the film in this video, so there will be spoilers. So if you have neither read it nor seen the film, I don't know that you'll want to listen to me talk about it, but the book, I loved it. I loved it, and I was disappointed that my husband did not love it because he is a huge Jaws fan. He absolutely loves the film, and he can quote the entire film and does so at random times throughout the day. But I watched him read this book, and he skipped large sections of it. He found the characters so unlikable and so removed from the characters that he knew and loved from the film that he just couldn't get into it. And I totally get that. And I do see that Ryan is here as an expert and an Ellen hater until the revenge. Wow. Okay. So I guess I need to continue with this series, Ryan. Is that what I'm hearing from you? And you know what, Ryan? I'm just going to copy the link to you. And if you want to jump in and join the stream and give some thoughts, you are more than welcome to, because I know whenever I think about whales or sharks, I think of your channel, Ryan. So if you want to pop in and share your thoughts, you're more than welcome to. But I loved the book. I felt like the characters in this book were a lot more fleshed out than they were in the film. And in my opinion, it never made sense to me that Chief Brody was an outsider in the film. So in the film, you know, he's the outsider and he's the chief of police. And that just never rang true to me, because knowing how very small communities like that are, it's usually all about who you know, who you're related to, and that sort of thing. So that never rang true to me. So the story did a bit of a different tactic in the book, because in the book, Ellen is the kind of outsider. She is from the upper class, and so she would be one of the, quote, summer people, so the people that would visit Amity during the summer, but they didn't live there throughout the year. So that made sense to me, and it created an interesting dynamic between Chief Brody and Ellen. The book does reflect a lot of marital issues that are happening, and of course in the film we don't really get a whole lot of Ellen. In the film, she's just kind of an ancillary character. She's there. There are some, you know, cute scenes between her and Chief Brody. It's kind of an endearing relationship, but there's not much really there with Ellen. The book gives you whole new insight into Ellen's background and also into the mayor. I was really intrigued by the mayor's character in the book, and the book has it all. I mean, it has a mafia element to it. It has a pretty scandalous affair. And I think that's one of the things that my husband really did not like. He did not like the fact that the character Hooper was kind of ruined for him because he does have this affair with Ellen. And yeah, I think the book and the movie, you have to consider, you know, apples and oranges, because with Steven Spielberg's film, you know, he is really creating this iconic horror movie. I mean, you've got the iconic score. The focus is really on the shark and creating this monster. And in the book, there's a lot more insight into the political dealings in the town of Amity. So I do feel like the book was a little bit better at creating this sense of urgency for the town as far as the shark attacks go and having to close the beaches. I feel like the book did a better job of that. Film Ellen always got on my nerves. I kind of hoped she would get eaten. Oh, Mark. Oh, no. I will say the book, who gets killed in the book is a lot different than who gets killed in the film. So that was very interesting because even though I've seen the film 100 times, the book was kind of an interesting adventure for me because I didn't really know what to expect next. And so that was really cool. It's two different things, and I feel like a lot of people go into this book and they're expecting the film. And that's just not what you're going to get. So if you can kind of let go of your feelings about the film and read this book, I highly suggest it. And I know that Ryan actually did an unboxing video for a first edition of Jaws, which was really cool. Doesn't look like this one. It's a black background and it's a more kind of understated shark there on the front. So if you guys have not done so, you should definitely pop on Ryan's channel. And here he is. He's actually going to show you the copy. Sorry, Ryan. I kind of put you on the spot with that one.
No problem. Can you hear me?
This yeah, I can hear you great. Well, I'm so sorry it was last minute, but
I totally forgot.
I'm going to be honest with you. I sat down to film a video about Jaws, and I'm just so rusty with like pre-recording videos and editing that I was just like, you know what, this is no fun. So let me just stop right now, and I'm just going to pop on a live and talk about it. And so I'm really glad you could join because it was kind of last minute, and I had thought about it. I was like, man, maybe I should have waited for a while and see if Ryan or anyone could pop in with me. But yeah, welcome to your first live.
This is my lunch break, so I have 30 minutes. We don't have to do the whole 30 minutes, but no, this is cool. I totally agree with hating editing or planning. I don't plan. Where are you at the airport?
Sorry. I'm at my local university soaking up some free Wi-Fi.
Oh, cool.
And they're like, maintenance people running around and stuff. So
no, so I don't plan anything. I hate editing. I do it all on my phone. And really I just cut out uhs. I do a lot of like and I don't realize how bad it is till I go back and look at what I recorded. So this is the one that I read. This is the same one you have, right?
Yes.
And then my wife got me this for something. I always say for my birthday or Christmas because my birthday is in December and they kind of just squish together a lot of times. But I think this was for Valentine's Day, maybe?
Nice.
Or something. I don't like, I'm on the book buying freeze, so basically any holiday is that we could possibly exchange gifts. Maybe it was our anniversary. That probably sounds more accurate. Anyway, so this is the first edition. And it's pretty sedate looking shark. And
very cool.
Yeah. So it's similar. But this is a scary looking shark to me. Very romantic. Yeah, and my wife never read the book, so she doesn't know about how Ellen is in this book. I came away hating Hooper. Are we doing? We're doing spoilers, right?
Yeah, we have to do spoilers because I can't really talk about the book or the film without spoiling everything. So yeah, feel free to spoil away.
Well, I every time I hear somebody's going to read Jaws, it's always like, just wait for the hottest scene that you're not expecting ever, because it is.
It's spicy.
Yeah, it really. You don't even see anything. For people who haven't read it, you don't see anything. They just describe what they would do to each other, and then it's over, and you're just left really unhappy with Ellen's choices. And Hooper, I don't know if Hooper was considered attractive in his day, if Richard Dreyfuss was, but the way he's described in the book is a little more kind of fancy boy,
yes,
preppy, and I guess horny, and you don't get that from Hooper in the movie. So
and very unlikable. And I think,
yeah,
again, I'm gonna mute it for a second. Hold on. I think because my husband loved Hooper so much in the film, that just ruined the book for him. He just couldn't. Like, he skipped whole sections because I watched him. I actually bought this book for him, and then he ended up hating it, so I felt kind of bad. But gave us something to talk about. And then Quint. What did you think about Quint in the book?
Do we curse on your channel? Can we say bad words?
We do not. We cannot.
He's an a-hole.
Yes.
At least like the redeeming quality in the movie was he's this veteran who survived a horrific sinking of a battleship, or not, was it a battleship?
The USS
Indianapolis is a battleship.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So you kind of had like, okay, well, he's seen some pretty bad stuff, but Quint is just kind of like a dirty fisherman that is just an a-hole, and that's it, really. It's like he's not as developed, and he doesn't have kind of a backstory as much. It's just he's looking for a job. He wants to make some profit. This is a shark that he can hunt, and let's go do it. I was sad about there's a dead baby bottlenose dolphin. Yeah, Shaw was good in the film.
Shaw made
that
it.
story.
He really did. The story. And see, I've got a question for you because I don't know that I've ever found a direct answer to this, but his whole speech about the USS Indianapolis in the film, I've heard two different things. I've heard that Robert Shaw pretty much wrote that scene himself, that he added that into the script. He wrote that scene. And then I've heard other stories that there was someone else who had a hand in writing that scene. So do you know, or have you heard much about that?
I don't know. Shaw's Scottish?
I think so, yeah.
So I don't know how much he would know about it. Because I don't think he was a U.S. citizen, right? I don't think he would have been serving on or been closely. I don't know, actually. But he was also he was a professionally trained actor, right? I think I had read something about the fact that the other actors weren't totally prepared for it. Like their reaction was more genuine than you would expect as like a rehearsed part. But I don't know. Because the bigger boat line I know is totally ad-libbed. You're going to need a bigger boat. I've read that. But I don't know. Okay. There are two books about, I think, the making of Jaws. He's English?
But moved to Ireland. Yeah, I think he died in Ireland. But I wasn't sure. I knew he wasn't from the U.S., but
yeah.
I think he definitely made that character into something unique in the film that is definitely not reflected in the book. And his entrance into the film is a lot more entertaining. The nails on the chalkboard, in the meeting and that whole thing is just so iconic. And in the book, that was kind of anticlimactic for me because he's kind of not a known person in the community. He's kind of on the outskirts, and like they just end up calling him like, hey, do you want to help us catch this shark? We'll pay you. I mean, it wasn't a very climactic entrance.
It's been a number of months since I read Jaws, but I feel like the first time you see Quint, he's out on his boat kind of going around the Long Island Sound maybe. Okay. So he's a little bit further off. In the book, Amity Island is kind of close to Montauk on Long Island, and in the movie it's based in Martha's Vineyard. So it doesn't always line up with where you expect things to happen when you're going back and forth between two, because they're slightly different locations. But Yeah, he didn't. I cringe at the movie version because I hate. It's a pet peeve. The eating. He's like eating like saltines or something while he's talking, and it's. I hate it. I hate that he does that. But yeah, there's definitely a better entrance, and I think you do get a feel for just how much you can dislike the local government in Amity, because that continues on. So if you read more of the books, there's always some kind of crime going on, and this one was loan sharking in Jaws, but then there's some organized crime later on too that is interesting too, and it all kind of culminates, I think, in maybe the revenge, or it might be Jaws 2. Now I'm forgetting, but yeah, he's definitely a better character in the movie, and Hooper is too. Hooper's a lot better, but I don't. We're ruining stuff. My favorite, I think I did it for my Actually, it's something you tagged me on, the dinner party.
Oh yeah.
And my favorite eating scene, my favorite dinner scene was Hooper
Yes.
being eaten, because I disliked him so much that once he was killed, he's not killed in the movie, which is what I was confused by, because in the book he's killed in the cage. He's in the shark cage. Yeah, I know, right? Loan sharking. It's perfect. In the movie, Hooper crawls out or swims out and hides like a coward. In the book, Hooper is eaten in the cage. He's crushed in the cage, and there's nothing he can do about it. So, now you just finished it, right?
Yes, I finished it last week.
How did it end? Because when I did my video, I couldn't remember if they finished, if it was just Brody swimming towards shore. Is that how it ended?
I think that's how it ends. It ends with Quint is kind of the shark just kind of dies, comes from its injuries, and then it's Quint and the shark just kind of floating down to the ocean floor, and Brody makes it, but I guess it's him. Yeah, he raised his head, cleared his eyes, and sighted in the distance the black point of the water tower. Then he began to kick toward shore. So yeah, kind of similar, in how the film, ends, obviously with Hooper and Chief Brody. But what did you think of that ending? How the shark ended in the book?
I felt like the book was more accurate. It was less of a monster in the book.
Yes.
Right. Like they. I mean, you even see now there's like Shark Week, and I feel like every Shark Week episode is about great white sharks. So in like 1974, they didn't have that kind of access, but in the book, it was not a calculating monster just out for blood. It was kind of random. So it looks like, I mean, it kind of, it skips over Brody when you think Brody's going to die, and then he doesn't. In the movie, it would have been the song and he's ripped apart. In the book, it's like, well, okay, it's random. He swam right by him, and he goes off and eats somebody else or does something else. So I felt like Peter Benchley did his research, but I like that approach better. But as far as a movie goes, it's not as much of a horror movie if it's an honest looking shark that isn't killing everyone. So I understand why they changed it, but I felt like the way it died was pretty anticlimactic. When you watch Jaws, in Jaws, they have the scene where they're on the pond, right? And the saltwater pond or whatever, and there's the little race and the kids get attacked, and that's actually in Jaws 2, which threw me off a little bit. Because,
interesting.
Yeah. So I was reading that, and I was like, wait, this happened in the movie. I read the book, and then I watched the movie, and then I read the next book, watched the next movie, and then there's a movie in between, Jaws 3D, that there's not a corresponding book. But if you've watched all the movies, have you watched all the movies?
It has been a long time. When I was a teenager, a friend of mine and we watched all of the Jaws films before we went to the beach.
Oh.
Because why not?
Yeah. Well, Jaws: The Revenge. I don't know if I ever saw that. That's the fourth movie, but the book makes much more sense. So if you watch Jaws: The Revenge, which there's some voodoo in it, and the shark travels from, it's a different shark, obviously, but it travels from the North Atlantic down to the Bahamas, and you're just kind of like, what? It's zeroed in on the Brody family. It makes more sense once you watch the movie or once you read the book, because there's some context there. But the second two books are done by a different guy, Hank Searles. The first one's Peter Benchley, and I think that the next two are good too. I like them.
Okay. I might have to give them a go, because I will say, just piggybacking off of what you said about how the shark is portrayed in the film versus the book, to me, how the shark is portrayed in the book is a lot scarier than the film in my mind as I'm reading it, because you realize that it's a shark behaving the way sharks do, and you really cannot predict it. It
Right.
is very random, and if you're a fisherman, I fish, and it's very similar to that. I mean, you can have all these gizmos and all these charts and all this stuff. That's great, but when it comes down to it, you really cannot truly predict, because there's so many factors that can affect fish populations and migration and where they go, that you don't know. And I think, Chief Brody in the book, he was kind of expecting Quint to know. And I think the second time they go out, he's like, well, we'll go where he was yesterday. And he's like, well, will he be there again today? And he's like, I don't know. He was there yesterday. Like, that's the best I can give you. Like, we cannot predict what he's going to do. But yeah, like you said, I definitely see why they did the film that way, because it is a horror movie. I mean, there's got to be action, but one thing in the book that was resolved for me was poor Ben Gardner. Ben Gardner in the film, they look for his boat. He's gone out and he's been missing. They look for his boat, and Hooper and Brody find his boat with a hole in it, with a shark tooth, a big shark tooth.
Yeah.
And then, of course, out pops Ben Gardner's decapitated head.
Yeah.
And when they get back to shore, it just always bothered me that when they're talking to, I think it was the mayor, they're like, yeah, we found Ben Gardner's boat and we found this shark tooth. They don't mention the fact that Ben Gardner is dead, that he's been killed by the shark. And I think that was handled better in the book. I feel like the book wrapped up some of that stuff a little bit better, because they did contact his wife and tell her.
They didn't find the body in the book, right?
They did not. They did not find the body, but they found his boat, did not find him, and put two and two together. They determined that he had been attacked by the shark. So,
although I think a lot of times people who lose family or friends at sea, they want that closure, even if there's not a body found. A lot of times, they're still in the back of their mind. They're like, maybe they're Amelia Earharting it out somewhere on this island, and we can find them and save them. And once you find the body, then it's kind of closure that they can say, okay, we can bring the body back to rest or something like that. So there were a couple instances where they didn't find a body, or they didn't even the little boy who died with the dog, like the
Alex
dog.
Kittner. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they just kind of saw him go up, and they were like, man, he probably was eaten by a shark, and that was kind of it. You remember in the movie, there's the kids that are picked up by the boat because they're like swimming around with a shark fin.
Yes.
I saw on Facebook this week that one of the kids from that scene was just made chief of police in some town on Cape Cod or Martha's Vineyard or something.
No kidding.
And that's his wild. His claim to fame. He was the older kid, I guess. And now he's enforcing the rules that, like, he would have been one of the cops in the movie if they had produced it now.
Well, and that's something else too. In the book, there were more shark attacks before it really became public and they closed the beaches. I feel like it's a more realistic, probably, take on how the town really would have handled it. And the inner workings of that. So, And there were a couple things in the book that I thought they could have included in the film because I thought it would have been cool. One in particular I actually marked. It was some kids who rented a skiff and they rowed offshore and they were ladling like blood and chicken guts and duck heads overboard. And they were basically, trying to gaff this shark. And I feel like that was a pretty cool scene they could have added to the film, which, I mean, they do a little bit of that when they're at the boat docks and they're showing like everybody going out at the same time to try to get the shark and people are driving their boats recklessly and all of that. But I thought that was a pretty cool scene in the book because that's just something some kids would do, like they don't think about the consequences. They don't think about, the danger here. And they're just like, they just run a boat and they just go out and chum. Have you ever chummed?
No.
I have. And, I don't recommend it.
That sounds disgusting. There was a scene.
Absolutely disgusting.
I remember if it was in, it may have been in Jaws 2, but there was a scene where the two guys take out a chunk of meat and they put it on a hook, or was that in the first Jaws movie?
That's in the first Jaws movie because it was someone's Sunday roast. It was the wife's Sunday roast. I remember that specifically. That's pretty good too.
Because that kind of reminds me of like that scene where like they're off and it's like nighttime and you're like, that's a bad idea. Why are you doing that? No, there were some scenes in it that I wish they would have kept from the book. And then there are some scenes that are definitely, I mean, like Roy Scheider's just a great actor, and the way they did stuff in the book or in the movie was great. What's interesting is if you read the books in order, and I kind of read them all at the same time, or not all at the same time, but in order. I read Jaws before I went to the beach. It wasn't horrible because I'd seen the movie, and it was more like just kind of comparing, contrasting them both. And we were in Delaware, but I mentioned this in a recent video, but I read Close to Shore, and Close to Shore is about the attacks from 1916 that take place off of New Jersey. And it's basically a series of attacks that kind of go up the coast and then circle around and go closer to New York City. And that legitimately would have scared me if I had gone to the beach after reading that, because kind of where we go into what's scarier, the real life stories or the real life kind of activities of a shark or behavior of a shark versus kind of the monsterized version of it. This was a period where people didn't really swim, and the shoreline of New Jersey wasn't really built up. People would go to the boardwalk, especially like in Atlantic City, but they wouldn't go in the water. They would just kind of, and there were changes in ordinances as far as what women could wear in the water too. So this is a time period where if you showed too much skin, you could be arrested, and doctors are becoming more specialized. So in one of the attacks, somebody who would have survived now bleeds out because there's no doctor that is a general doctor that would understand how to stop bleeding through the femoral artery, and it's his son, and his son dies. But the kind of the stories culminate in this attack in this creek further in northern Jersey, or kind of near Earl, New Jersey, maybe. But this attack, it's basically like these kids are working in a factory and they take a break and they're swimming in a swimming hole, and the shark just kind of got stuck in this tidal flow and ate. And like when you see that, you're like, that is enough. And for our area, you also have bull sharks that you have to worry about because they can go pretty far up, even freshwater areas for a certain amount of time. So when you read the real accounts that somewhat inspired Peter Benchley, it makes it even scarier. And I think his book follows that kind of storyline where it's more realistic and random, and people don't automatically know there's kind of a fog to what they're learning.
Actually, I'm gonna read that book, Close to Shore. Next July, that's gonna be the Black Hearts Book Club book pick. And actually, I saw it on your channel, and also Mark, Book Time with Elvis, saw it on your channel, and he actually suggested it. He's like, why don't we do this for Black Hearts Book Club? And I was like, that would be perfect. And I thought about asking you, but I feel bad making people reread things that they've already read.
I've never
But
reread anything. Yeah.
yeah, so but yeah, I'm excited to get to that one because, like you said, the true account is definitely more scary.
Yeah.
But
And it's cool to see that area, that time
Yeah.
period, because you don't really. It's not a whole lot set in 1916. It's not like a World War I based lead up kind of story. So
right.
yeah.
Well, I know you're on your lunch break, so I don't want to eat up. I think
Yeah.
you're probably
30 minutes.
So, thank you so much for popping in, Ryan. This was such a cool surprise. Thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts, because you are the shark/whale guy. That is you.
And Jaws is why I like whales.
There you go.
Because there's a sperm whale in Jaws: The Revenge, and that's what
Nice.
took me along that path. Yeah. Well,
Very
thanks for
cool.
having me.
Well, thanks for coming, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll do this again. Maybe when I read, if I finish this series, I'll get my life together and have a schedule beforehand, so I don't pop it on you last minute. But that would be cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I tagged you on a video that I'm going to post on. Well, I've already done the premiere posting. I don't plan, and I don't like to wait, so I just kind of throw them up there when they're done. But you're tagged on it, so this is the awfully big adventure tag.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I consider Jaws an adventure.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, thanks.
Right. Thanks for coming. Bye, Ryan.
Have a good one. See you.
So, yeah, that was really cool. I'm so glad that I got to actually chat with someone about Jaws, because when I scheduled this live, I wasn't even sure anyone would show up to hear me talk about it. But I am glad that some folks did. And Mark, yeah, land-like country. You know, I think a couple of weeks ago, they actually spotted a bull shark. I think they spotted a bull shark in the James River, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, sometimes those sharks do go upstream a little bit into some of the rivers where the water is brackish. But it sounds like that book, Close to Shore, is really going to talk about some terrible long-term incidents that happened. And it doesn't stop me from swimming in the ocean. I'm just curious, anybody who's out there watching, do you swim in the ocean or not? Mark, I'm going to guess you don't from your comment. Yeah, I like this book. I do understand everyone's thoughts about how unlikable certain characters were, but I do feel like the characters redeemed themselves throughout the book. So maybe not redeemed themselves, but they showed some character growth. So by the end, we do see some character growth from Ellen. And I do think certain things in the book happen that cause her to realize that maybe she's hanging on to her past when she should not be. And maybe she's not giving her husband enough credit. And maybe she should be kind of grateful for what she does have. So, you know, I did see some character growth with Ellen. I wouldn't go as far as to say I wanted her to be eaten by the shark, as some people have said. Yeah, I mean, and I know this sounds bad, but I usually try to go where other people are also swimming. So I figure, you know, if there's more people, then there's a little more variety. So maybe I can get out of there, or if there's someone nearby to help me. I don't know. It just makes me feel a little bit more safe to have people around me when I'm swimming in the ocean. So I don't particularly like to be out there in an area completely by myself, but I definitely swim in the ocean. Oh, I bet it was beautiful in Bermuda, Mark. I forgot about that, but I should have known that you would have done a good bit of swimming down there. I will say that Mayor Vaughn's character, by the end of this book, I was very sympathetic towards him, because, you know, even though at the beginning he is very corrupt and he's doing everything he can to keep these beaches open, by the end of the book, he is completely wrecked. I mean, you can just see the consequences of his actions and how it's completely destroyed his life and these connections with the mafia. So, I mean, by the end of the book, you do have a little bit of sympathy for him. I wouldn't say that he's my, favorite character in the book, but I did enjoy the mafia element to it. I'm not going to lie. I thought that was pretty interesting and gave the whole political scene a different look as well. And Robert Shaw, I mean, he is Quint in my mind. So I will say the Quint character in the book is a bit of a disappointment if you're going to compare it to Robert Shaw's portrayal. But again, if you can suspend your thoughts and, kind of preconceived notions about Jaws and go into this book with an open mind, I think you will enjoy it. There's a lot to it, and you get a feel for the town. You get a lot of different characters. I feel like you get to spend a little bit more time in the town because we don't actually get to the part where they're chasing the shark until later in the book. So I feel like it was maybe the last third that we really got to see Quint in the book. So that's a bit different from the film as well. And I really enjoyed in the copy that I have, the back actually has some of Peter Benchley's notes about the Jaws script. And I found that very interesting because you can tell they changed a lot of things based on Peter Benchley's notes. Some of the things that they were going to include in the film, he just thought were a bit over the top and just completely inaccurate or unbelievable. And so, he goes through quite a few in this one letter. There's at least 20 things he kind of talks about being absurd, and he was very critical of the rogue shark concept that was included in the movie. So yeah, and they also had Ryan points out the other possible names for Jaws. That was pretty cool, and a couple of the things were actually handwritten, so they actually show like the original title page of Jaws, which is pretty neat. So that was kind of cool. Some of the names were pretty crazy. Dark White, the Fish, Haunt, Great White. Yeah. So definitely like the name Jaws better than most of those. So I guess that's all I have to say about Jaws, guys. I'm a fan. I really enjoyed the book. I'm a huge fan of the movie. Love the movie. Love Robert Shaw. He's definitely my favorite actor in the movie. But yeah, I like the book for different reasons. So yeah, now that you say that, Ryan, I could definitely see that reflected in the letters that are in the back of the book, because it sounded like Peter Benchley was pretty unhappy with the way the film was going, and kind of the tactic that Spielberg was taking. I think he put, like you said, a lot of research into sharks and shark habits, and I think he wanted to make sure that those sorts of things were included in the film and that it was an accurate portrayal of how sharks behave. But yeah, Steven Spielberg went kind of a different way with that. And I think Peter Benchley, from what I read, from what I read, after he wrote the book, he spent a lot of time like with, conservationists, like trying to spread information about sharks and kind of really being an advocate almost for sharks, I guess. So that's kind of interesting. I can see why he would have an issue with the film, but thanks for joining me, guys. I had a lot of fun chatting with you all about Jaws. I hope everyone is having a fantastic summer, and I hope that you all get to go for a swim. Just watch out for that seaweed, because whenever seaweed hits my leg, that kind of freaks me out a little bit. But just remember, it's probably nothing. Enjoy your swim, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Thanks for popping by.